Until recently, a mid-table Premier League club known for their tough tackling, no-nonsense approach and their cauldron of a ground at Upton Park. West Ham United are now currently a club in crisis with a real lack of identity. Today we're going to be looking at the ownership of David Gold and David Sullivan, which began in 2010, and how they've drifted from one managerial style to the next with an incoherent transfer strategy as well. Don't forget, before we begin, to smash a like on the video, share the content around, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and of course subscribe to our socials as well. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook and TikTok. Something that appears to have been lost some time ago is what is known as the West Ham way. For me, as someone who grew up in the 1990s, the West Ham way was characterised by that tough tackling Harry Redknapp team. You think of the likes of Julian Dix, Paolo Di Canio, Frank Lampard, Neil Razor Ruddock at centre half, Rio Ferdinand as well. These were players who were either seasoned Premier League professionals, foreign flair players with a real tough approach to the game, or young pros who were really looking to make a mark and went on indeed to have bright futures. We could think of the likes of Joe Cole, Frank Lampard, Rio Ferdinand, and Michael Carrick who stand out in particular. And these were teams categorised by a no-nonsense approach, very tough to beat, especially at home. Upton Park was always a really difficult ground for opposing teams to play against. But as well as this, as well as having the grit that we associate with more recent Premier League clubs such as Stoke City and Burnley of course is still in the Premier League, West Ham always had a bit of quality going forward. The likes of Di Canio, Paolo One-Shot, Trevor Sinclair. These were certainly Sinclair and Di Canio. They seem to come up with bicycle kicks and scissors kicks once or twice a season. And with players like Joe Cole, Michael Carrick and Frank Lampard in midfield, there was real quality there as well. However, when Redknapp was sacked in 2001 for posting or talking about the owner in a slightly degrading way, I think as he put it himself, the club have pursued a scattergun managerial policy. We had the likes of Glenn Roeder in charge, Alan Pardew, Alan Kirbishley, Gianfranco Zola, and then Avram Grant, who of course took West Ham down to the Championship in 2011. Obviously before that West Ham were relegated in 2003 under Roeder. And the owners, David Sullivan and David Gold, they took charge in 2010, and they've currently been owners of West Ham United for 10 years. Now in that time the club have gone through Avram Grant, Sam Allardyce, Slaven Bilic, David Moyes, Manuel Pellegrini, and then back to David Moyes. These are 5 managers with very different styles, very different types of players that they like as well. And one of the things that West Ham have failed to address is a coherent transfer policy. And one of the main reasons for this is because the owner, the majority shareholder, I should say, David Sullivan, and his son David Sullivan Jr. are the ones who are most involved in the transfers that the club make. They're the ones who are in direct contact with players and with agents, and they do not have a director of football. There have been men who have occupied that position in the recent past. However, there's been no long-term strategy in regards to that. And when you have owners who have little footballing expertise, who are the ones who are dictating transfer policy and managerial policy over long periods of time, it's only natural that the club becomes directionless. And unfortunately, that is exactly what has happened to West Ham. They're no longer the tough to beat, tough to play against, yet with a great quality going forward side that they were under Harry Redknapp. They have a big squad, but one that is filled with all sorts of players. If you think of their recent transfer policy, it's involved signing older, seasoned Premier League pros, and then attractive foreign players from European leagues. Just to name a few, in recent seasons they've signed Patrice Evra, Pablo Zabaleta, Alvaro Arbeloa, Jose Fonte, Carlos Sanchez, Lucas Perez, Samir Nasri. These are seasoned Premier League and international players who they would have signed on high wages on free transfers or for low fees, but the fact that they're on such high wages and the fact that these players basically come to West Ham United for a payday and for the London lifestyle is detrimental to what the club need to be doing on the pitch. These are not similar signings to the likes of Stuart Pearce and Neil Ruddock, who were seasoned Premier League professionals but still had a serious amount of determination and professionalism and put in great shifts for West Ham in the late 1990s and the early 2000s. In recent seasons, West Ham have smashed their transfer record twice. In 2018, signing Felipe Anderson for £36 million from Lazio, and in 2019, signing Sebastian Haller for £45 million from Eintracht Frankfurt. Now, to be fair, Felipe Anderson did very well in his first season, scoring 9 Premier League goals and registering a number of assists as well, and he was one of the most exciting wide forwards in the league. However, last season, his form dropped off a cliff. He didn't seem to care, he wasn't putting in a shift, and the quality in terms of his end product wasn't there at all. Now, onto Haller. Haller is a good striker, however, he's a man who is caught in a system that doesn't suit him. In essence, he's a target man. However, he was brought in by Manuel Pellegrini in 2019, a manager who likes to play an expansive style of football, and his philosophy is very much built on ball keeping, ball retention, and passing and moving, and Haller just simply doesn't fit into that style of play. Now, with David Moyes back in charge, perhaps there is going to be some improvement in Haller's form. He of course scored in the League Cup against Charlton Athletic recently. However, I think he only bagged 6 Premier League goals in the whole of last season and 36 games, and that's just not good enough at all for a return of £45 million. And if West Ham are going to have any success this season, they really need to get their main striker firing, and to do that they have to play to his strengths. So that means crosses into the box, taking advantage of set pieces, so planning very well on the training ground how they're going to execute their corners and free kicks, and playing to his strengths. There's no point trying to play how Pellegrini was trying to play in a more expansive style if you don't have a centre forward who can play that way. This scattergun transfer policy from the owners is also a reflection of the scattergun managerial hire policy. As I mentioned before, they went from Avram Grant, who liked to play, I suppose, an expansive style of game, though his reign at West Ham was one that finished in relegation and they were desperately poor, to Sam Allardyce in the Championship, obviously known for a more conservative style, traditional style of English football. Following on from Allardyce, they went to Slaven Bilic, former Croatian international and manager of the national team, who again prefers an expansive style of football. Then from Bilic they went to David Moyes, who is a more traditional British manager and prefers a style more similar to Allardyce, though perhaps a little bit more expansive than him. Then from Moyes they went to Manuel Pellegrini, who obviously plays an expansive style of football, and then following his sacking in November of last year with the club in the relegation zone, they went back to David Moyes. So this toing and froing between once things are going well, hiring an attractive type of manager, foreign manager who plays expansive football, to when that experiment fails, going back to a tried and tested British Premier League manager who plays a more conservative style of play, has impacted seriously negatively on the club's recruitment. And when the new manager comes in, they find lots of players there who simply don't suit their style of play, and so then they're trying to move players on and they're having to play players who simply do not fit into the way that they want to play. Now, how can we talk about West Ham United without mentioning their controversial move to London's Olympic Stadium from their former cauldron of a ground, the Boiling Ground at Upton Park in 2016? Their Premier League win ratio percentage at Upton Park was 46%. Now contrast this to their move to the Olympic Stadium in the last 4 seasons, I should say now, and that dropped significantly to 35%. The most obvious thing that you notice with the Olympic Stadium is, of course, it has a massive athletics track running around the edge, so the crowd is really detached from the atmosphere. And contrast that with Upton Park, which the pitch was right beside the stands and the fans could see the players up close. The home fans could get a real advantage by making a lot of noise and making their presence known and really being the 12th man of the team. And that was something that was very clear at West Ham for many years, was that the crowd really impacted their performances when playing at home. In addition, for fans travelling to games, they would have known the route going to Upton Park at the back of their hand. The atmosphere created when walking to a stadium cannot be underestimated. And contrast that to the location of the London Olympic Stadium, which is in a commercial area. I believe when you get off the tube there, you have to your left a shopping mall, and then to your right the Olympic Stadium, and the atmosphere that must generate simply is incomparable to the atmosphere of walking down Green Street towards Upton Park. Under the owners, West Ham have become big spenders, as I mentioned, twice breaking their transfer record in the last 2 seasons to sign players for the price of 36 and 45 million pounds respectively. However, it has to be said that they're not using their money wisely. It's very similar to how Manchester United spend their money, and it is nothing short of directionless. However, not all of the blame can be pointed at the owners. In fact, Manuel Pellegrini lobbied so hard for West Ham to give Jack Wilshere a 3-year deal on £100,000 a week when they signed him from Arsenal in 2018, and the owners only wanted to give him a 1-year deal. It's of course clear now that that was a mistake on Pellegrini's part, and the owners' decision to only offer him a 1-year contract would have been vindicated. Wilshere has played just 18 games in all competitions in his 2 seasons as a West Ham player, as he has been set back by injuries yet again, which of course has been the curse of his career since he broke onto the scene at Arsenal in 2010. In order to address this crisis of identity, West Ham have to do 2 things. First and foremost, they have to, once crowds can get back into the stadium, of course, they have to address the issue of the atmosphere at the London Stadium. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. There are no plans to build a new West Ham stadium. That is their stadium, and the fans and the club absolutely have to find a way to get that rocking and make it an intimidating venue that Upton Park was for so many years. In addition to that, they need to appoint a director of football, someone who sits above the manager, and regardless of who's coming and going as regards to the manager, this man or woman is in charge of the transfer strategy, and they buy players to suit how West Ham want to play over a long period of time. The club need to implement a clear philosophy. Do they want to be tough to beat like they were under Sam Allardyce but play conservative football? Do they want to be tough to beat but play more expansive football and have flair players as they were under Harry Redknapp in the 1990s and early 2000s? Or do they want to go down the Manuel Pellegrini route again and try to play very expansive football? West Ham have lofty ambitions. The owners have said many times that they want to break into the top 6. Indeed, that was a goal they said that would be achieved within 5 years, and of course that hadn't happened, although they did finish 7th under Slaven Bilic in 2016. Thanks very much for watching today's video, guys. Don't forget again to smash a like on the video, share the content around, subscribe to the channel, and subscribe to our socials. Once again, we're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. I've been Joe, and I'll see you next time.